Good evening, Jai Jinendra. Welcome to one and all for our 27th session. And good morning to all our family in the US. आज का सेशन बहुत स्पेशल और इंफॉर्मेटिव है. Namaste to all our panelists. Special thanks and morning to Dr. Rekha ji and my dear friend Dr. Jacob. We all salute to all the doctors on behalf of all our Jain Journal members for their incomparable efforts and sacrifice. You all doctors are global soldiers. Rekha ji will speak on COVID-19 and its impact on senior citizens, which is the key because they are the main target of these enemy. I'm sure everybody would have gone through the profile of Dr. Rekha ji. She's a Jain from Jodhpur, and she has a bad soldiers of doctors she's managing at these tough times in a city like New York, and we all have seen how New York has been affected by this coronavirus, where many of the people would have seen the bodies, how they have seen this and that, and that's seen at presently in New York. And she will share her experience and give her points that India, how do we need to be careful in coming days about the corona. My dear friend is Jacob. I think I knew him from few years. I feel one of the most intelligent person I have met in my life. Jacob can go on and on any of the subjects given to him. Though what I found Jacob today to be a panelist is, though he's not a Jain, I have always seen him as a man of compassion. If you want to know how one lives compassion without knowing meaning of, without learning about compassion and without having knowledge about compassion, or in so many words, but Dr. Jacob lives his life as a compassion. I have never seen him, any request I have gone to him and he has not reverted back or not connected to the people, and he's so helpful. I'm really grateful in my life to know Dr. Jacob. For me, any of the issues comes on the medical field, first person to contact in my friends, my families, or anybody is today Jacob. Welcome, Dr. Jacob, and I'm glad you accepted this invitation. Then we have Dr. Pooja ji, who will definitely, in any medical terms, or Dr. Jacob will speak in English, then Pooja will probably try to help our viewers to understand in Hindi. Of course, the second session, because being Sunday, we have brought Neil, our old hero, favorite man, Neil Bhai, to do the quiz session. I will not talk much about it because we have the two important people on the panel. All over to you, Pooja. Thank you so much. Jai Jinendra. Pooja.
आप सबको मेरा सादर प्रणाम. हमारे साथ दो बेहतरीन डॉक्टर जुड़े हुए हैं. डॉक्टर रेखा जी जो न्यूयॉर्क से हैं. जैसे एक योद्धा युद्ध के मैदान में जंग लड़ता है, वैसे ही हमारे डॉक्टर रेखा जी दुनिया की वैश्विक महामारी कोरोना का जंग लड़ रही है. इनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान है. आइए देखते हैं डॉक्टर रेखा जी के जरिए कैसे इन्होंने कोरोना संक्रमित पीड़ित लोगों की सहायता की. हमारे साथ डॉक्टर जेकब सैमुअल जी जुड़े हैं, जो एक एनेस्थीसियोलॉजिस्ट हैं. अपने आप में एक सरल स्वाभाविक व्यक्ति हैं. ये एक करुणाशील व्यक्ति हैं. इनके नाम के पीछे बहुत सारी डिग्री लगी हुई है और ये बेहतरीन यूनिवर्सिटी से इन्होंने शिक्षा ली है. काफी सारा अध्ययन किया है इन्होंने. इनको भी सादर प्रणाम. आप सबको सादर प्रणाम. नील भाई सादर प्रणाम. रमेश अंकिल नमस्ते. Over to you, Rekha ji.
First of all, Jai Jinendra for all the audience. Good morning to US audience and good evening to Indian audience. And my sincere thank you for all of you to have me on this panelist and share my experience of fighting this virus here in New York. Around March of first week, I would say maybe late of February, that's when we started seeing patients with symptoms. जो कोरोना-19 वायरस की patients सबसे पहले न्यूयॉर्क में diagnosis शुरू हुआ around end of February and early March. Since then, we've seen severe devastation, unfortunately. सबसे ज़्यादा हमारे senior population में we saw a significant devastation, and we were in the front line. We learned every day. We learned about this virus every single day. There was new information. Virus का presentation was different. जो हम पहले सोच रहे थे जो वायरस कोल्ड वायरस है, रेस्पिरेटरी वायरस है, the way we started and the way it has evolved so far, and it's going to continue to evolve so far, is an extremely challenging um, clinical situation that we have right now. So, yeah, New York, yeah, United States, में we have few different kinds of places where we treat the patients. एक तो hospital में है, of course, nurse, clinics है. यहाँ के nursing homes है, जो वहाँ पर हमारे seniors रहते हैं, it is pretty much their home, senior homes है. We saw significant changes there. फिर सबसे पहले गवर्नमेंट ने वी मेड श्योर दैट वी स्टॉप द विजिटर्स, क्योंकि वायरस बाहर से आ रही है. जो हमारी लॉकडाउन आप इंडिया में सुनते हैं, यहाँ पर हम बोलते हैं सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग. सो वी स्टार्टेड डूइंग दैट वे अर्ली, समटाइम इन अर्ली मार्च. स्टाफ जो अंदर बिल्डिंग के अंदर आ रही थी उनको हम स्क्रीन कर रहे थे, उनको भी वेदर दे हैड फीवर, वेदर दे हैड सिम्टम्स, अगर उन्होंने ट्रैवल किया है. उसके अलावा we were recommending patients, staff who had symptoms, to stay away from my seniors. With all that what we have done, we still saw enough devastation in New York. एक तो हो सकता है we have to learn from our lessons. हो सकता है we had the governance could have acted a little more earlier, meaning strict social distancing or lockdown तो अभी तक announce नहीं हुआ, क्योंकि obviously there is concern about financial implications to the population of New York, which is definitely a financial center in United States. So social distancing was announced when the community spread had already happened. Community spread मतलब ये हम पहले सोच रहे थे जो चाइना से आ रहे हैं, इटली से आ रहे हैं, these might be the risk patients. But by the time we saw first week of March में, it was in the community for sure. Because this was my patient zero in my मेरा clinical practice में was in a nursing home, 80-year-old who had not gone out of his room for 3 weeks, meaning since January. So community spread हो चुकी थी. So हमारी वो lockdown नई social distancing का advisory which came from the Department of Health maybe could have been a little earlier. So उसके अलावा we saw some challenges on the ground, right? The availability of PPE, हम बोलते हैं personal protection equipment, or how to use it was a challenge. So this is something it has been resolved right now. We are trying our best. The thing is, we've not seen as many new patients as we saw 6 weeks ago. Mortality काफी कम हो चुकी है. So I think we are getting there. We're still not out of trouble.
So डॉक्टर रेखा जी यही बताना चाह रहे हैं कि इन्होंने कैसे इन संक्रमित लोगों, पीड़ित लोगों को, जो महामारी कोरोना से जो पीड़ित लोग हैं, उनसे कैसे इन्होंने लड़ाई का सहयोग दिया और कैसे इन्होंने इनको ट्रीट किया. जैसे न्यूयॉर्क में फरवरी में कितने सारे केसेस थे, 6 हफ्ते पहले जितने नंबर ऑफ केसेस से उससे भी कम, यानी बहुत सारे लोगों की मृत्यु हो चुकी थी इस कोरोना की वजह से. और आज जब हम इनके आंकड़े देखते हैं, ये काफी कम हो गए हैं, क्योंकि इनकी जो सहयोग जो इन्होंने दिया है, जो सहायता की है, और जितनी सारी फैसिलिटीज के हिसाब से इन्होंने जो किया है, आंकड़ों की कमी काफी हद तक कम हो चुकी है.
Rekha ji, if you want to say a few incidents where you was really frightened, or आपने कैसा इसको actually on the field handle किया, then probably we'll ask Dr. Jacob to tell little bit about this virus.
Sure. So मेरा सबसे first exposure for me जैसे COVID virus का था, when I got a phone call from CDC, Center for Disease Control. हमारे nursing home में एक physician assistant of Asian origin, he had seen patients, और that was on a Friday. Saturday और Sunday उसको बुखार वगैरह शुरू हो गया था, और Monday वो खुद self isolate करने के लिए न्यू जर्सी गए. and then Tuesday तक उनकी हालत इतनी खराब हो गई थी, he went to the hospital. Hospital में उनका टेस्ट किया गया and Wednesday, Thursday तक रिजल्ट आई पॉजिटिव फॉर कोविड. उसके बाद it was a whole series of explanations that we had to go through. जिस मरीजों को उन्होंने देखे थे नर्सिंग होम को, उनको सिम्टम्स है कि नहीं, वो बीमार थे कि नहीं, सो उनको सब टेस्ट किया गया. So I was in touch with Department of Health, CDC, Mayor's office, क्योंकि that was the patient zero. उसके अलावा मैं पेशेंट्स फ्लोर में गई, हॉस्पिटल फ्लोर में गई, वहां पर 4-5 लोगों को बुखार शुरू हो चुकी थी. I still remember मेरा first meeting with the administration was, मुझे इतनी कंसर्न हो रही है, सबको लो ग्रेड फीवर शुरू हो चुकी है और सीनियर्स में 99 फ़ारेनहाइट इज आल्सो ए सिग्निफिकेंट नंबर. सो जैसे हम छोटे उम्र फॉर यंगर पेशेंट्स 102 101 would be significant, हमारे सीनियर्स में 99 फीवर हो तो वो भी काफी सिग्निफिकेंट है. तो मुझे, मैं मीटिंग में सुबह मैं वहां बैठी हूँ एंड आई सेड लिसन, मुझे इस 5 पेशेंट्स की बहुत कंसर्न है, हम लोगों को सोचना चाहिए ये हो सकता है कोविड है. तो हमने टेस्ट किया है. उस समय अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे पास टेस्टिंग का इतनी स्केलेबिलिटी नहीं थी न्यूयॉर्क में. सो हमारा गाइडलाइंस आया, पहले सबसे पेशेंट जो जिस फर्स्ट पेशेंट का जिसका बुखार शुरू हुआ उनका टेस्ट करो आप. तो वी टेस्टेड हिम एंड ही केम बैक पॉजिटिव. तो उसके बाद वी डिड नॉट नो द ट्रीटमेंट. हम लोग ये सब एनेक्डोटल ट्रीटमेंट्स चल रही है. तो हम टाइलेनॉल दिए, फ्लूइड्स दिए, विटामिन सी दिए, जिंक दिए, जो भी उस समय अवेलेबल इंफॉर्मेशन था हमने शुरू किए. बट विद इन 3 days ऑल ऑफ देम passed. एंड मैं आई एम नॉट सेइंग हम लोगों को डर लग रहा था, बट वो डिस्ट्रेस अंदर से फीलिंग थी. आई एम ए जीरियाट्रिक स्पेशलिस्ट. फॉर द ऑडियंस, जीरियाट्रिक्स का मतलब है इट्स अ स्पेशलिटी फॉर सीनियर्स. As per World Health Organization, it is for the age of 65 and above. So the first cluster of deaths were with I could just watch on the sideline, and the amount of distress and sense of hopelessness is unexplainable. मुझे ये मालूम है, I came home and for, I would say, for a week or two, the numbness I felt, and I had to introspect just to deal with the emotions itself, क्योंकि वो ध्यान बोलते हैं हमारे जैनिज्म में, मेडिटेशन है. I had to consciously start doing it because it was affecting, क्योंकि हम लोग सब डॉक्टर्स हैं, we are here to heal, we are here to help patients, we are here to see better patients outcomes. Here I had the cluster of these patients whom I have been treating for decades. I lost them in a moment's time, in a matter of 3 days. मेरी फ्लोर में around 16 deaths हुई within matter of 3 days. और unfortunately hospitals were not prepared. Morgues नहीं थे हमारे पास. इतने डेथ्स नहीं होते हैं अमेरिकन सिस्टम में. मॉर्ग्स नहीं थे. बर्फ की ट्रक्स रखा गया. डेथ सर्टिफिकेट्स की प्लेटफॉर्म जैम हो गई. फैमिलीज वेर नॉट अलाउड टू कम इनटू द हॉस्पिटल क्योंकि वो लोग लॉस्ट थे. वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग उनसे हो रही थी क्योंकि स्टाफ अंदर, हॉस्पिटल के अंदर स्टाफ इतने बिजी थे, वो लोग कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पा रहे थे. सो पेशेंट्स बेचारे अकेले थे अंदर. दे वर वेरी स्केयर्ड. They could not talk to their family members. And the first 2 weeks, मैं geriatric के अलावा मेरी other specialty है, which is a palliative medicine, where it helps for patients who are transitioning in life. जो Jainism में है, help them to understand that they're transitioning from this particular life to moving on. So I see deaths regularly. It's not new to me, but this was unbelievable. None of us were prepared for that.
Thank you.
डॉक्टर रेखा जी, जैसे आपने बताया कि बहुत सारे पीड़ित लोगों को आपने ट्रीट किया है और आपके अंडर काफी सारे डॉक्टर्स थे जिनकी आपने जिनके लिए आपने बहुत सारी लीडरशिप क्वालिटीज दिखाई. क्या आप हमें बता सकते हैं कि कितने डॉक्टर्स आपके अंडर थे और कितने सारे सिटी बेस्ड सेंटर्स में आपने पेशेंट्स को ट्रीट किया, एंड आपका एक्सपीरियंस इसके साथ, आपका जो तजुर्बा था इसके साथ आप हमारे साथ शेयर कीजिए.
तो जो मैं एक ब्रुकलिन में एक एकेडमिक सेंटर है किंग्सब्रुक जूइश मेडिकल सेंटर, उसमें मैं चीफ ऑफ जीरियाट्रिक्स हूँ. मेरे नीचे आई टीच 4th ईयर मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स है और पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन मेडिसिन में एमडी कर रहे हैं, वो जीरियाट्रिक रोटेशन मेरे साथ करते हैं. उसके अलावा ब्रुकलिन में सबसे बड़ा ग्रुप ऑफ नर्सिंग फैसिलिटी है, उसका नाम है अलोर ग्रुप. उसकी चीफ मेडिकल ऑफिसर हूँ. वहाँ 1500 अराउंड 1500 सीनियर्स है. और किंग्सब्रुक के अटैच्ड एक और नर्सिंग फैसिलिटी है, वहाँ 450 पेशेंट्स है. उनको उन सबका जिम्मेदारी कम से कम आई वुड से अराउंड 2000 सीनियर्स का लाइफ की जिम्मेदारी. आई वाज द चीफ मेडिकल ऑफिसर. ऑब्वियसली ग्राउंड में मेरी मेडिकल डायरेक्टर्स थे, जूनियर डॉक्टर्स है. लोग भी डे टू डे पेशेंट्स को देख रहे थे. उनमें भी काफी लोग कोविड-19 का इन्फेक्शन हो चुका है उनको. अभी वो लोग थैंकफुली दे आर रिकवरिंग. बट आई डिड लूज a very fond colleague of mine. वो साइकियाट्रिस्ट थे, पिछले 17 साल से मेरे साथ काम कर रहे हैं. उनकी बेटी भी डॉक्टर है, वो 4th ईयर मेडिकल स्टूडेंट थी तब. मैं आई नो शी ट्रेन्ड अंडर मी. So one of the most devastating news is we lost him also. He also lost his life fighting COVID-19. So जो ट्रीटमेंट पहले से हम सिम्टोमेटिक ट्रीटमेंट से हमने शुरू किए, जैसे फ्लूइड से लेके विटामिन सी, जिंक. उसके बाद वो एनेक्डोटल ट्रीटमेंट हम जिसके बारे में हम बोलते हैं, जैसे हाइड्रोक्सीक्लोरोक्विन with the combination of antibiotics such as azithromycin and doxycycline हमने ट्राई किए. बट सीनियर्स में इतनी जो हम लोग एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे रिजल्ट्स, इतना हमने नहीं देखे. हो सकता है सीनियर्स में कार्डियोवास्कुलर बर्डन ज्यादा हो. उनको उनमें जो हाइड्रोक्सीक्लोरोक्विन जो इंडिया से काफी आई थिंक यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स गॉट हेल्प फ्रॉम इंडिया. उसकी we didn't see the kind of result we were expecting in seniors. Either natural immunity से seniors ठीक हो गए, या अगर हम हार्ट प्रॉब्लम या कार्डियोवास्कुलर बर्डन नहीं था, वो पेशेंट्स थोड़ा ठीक हो गए. बट इनफ मोर्टेलिटी हुआ इवन दो वी स्टार्टेड द ट्रीटमेंट अर्ली ऑन. बट यहाँ पर बाकी अलग एंटीवायरल ट्रीटमेंट्स है और प्लाज्मा ट्रीटमेंट की बात चल रही है, मीडिया में कवरेज हो रही है. उसमें यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में काफी स्ट्रिक्ट रेगुलेशन है कौन क्वालिफाई करता है. So not everyone gets plasma treatment, not everyone gets antiviral treatment. अभी पिछले आई थिंक फ्राइडे and Dr. Anthony Fauci है, who's the advisor for President Donald Trump. They announced antiviral medication which is called Remdesivir. We have used that and they did a very fast, almost 1000 plus patients की उन्होंने randomized control trial किए. उसमें इनकी decent, statistically significant decent results आई है. So they ethically they were bound to announce that Remdesivir is one of the basic treatment. It's not an answer. We understand that it's not an answer, but Remdesivir का treatment अभी FDA ने they gave us an approval to go forward with that. Now अभी दूसरी combination की चर्चा हो रही है, जो combination of Remdesivir and immunomodulator, अभी उसकी स्टडी चल रही है. So we are not there yet. अभी vaccination का भी phase 2 trial we started, United States has started, and we hope we will be vaccination will be available in 2021. But the worry, at least United States में और European countries में जो winter की spike we are expecting, वो हम लोगों के लिए worrisome है for sure.
Dr. Jacob, do you have some questions to ask?
Plasma infusions, that's passive immunity, correct, Dr. Rekha?
Correct.
Your voice is breaking,
Yeah.
Dr. Jacob. Can you be a little closer to the speaker?
It says my internet connection is unstable for some reason. Anyway, there was a time for tetanus. We used to do horse serum. Does it apply here? It's like a
I think so, Dr. Jacobs. But I have to tell you this: the antibody testing in United States, I have to be very honest, has been flawed. जो एंटीबॉडी टेस्टिंग था, एक तो दो तरीके से हम टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, एक तो ब्लड टेस्ट और फिंगर स्टिक का कर रहे थे. बट फिंगर स्टिक इज नॉट समथिंग विच इज वेरी एक्यूरेट. सो blood test, antibody testing, wherever they have an IgG, the person who has survived COVID and developed significant IgG are the donor population. But someone who receives it, they've have had very selective criteria who gets to receive it.
Yeah.
Concept is the same. The concept is the same of giving passive immunity. The question what we have is COVID similar to flu? Meaning, is it seasonal? And the immunity which we develop to COVID, is it temporary? So the passive immunity or IgG that a person develops, is it because of this current strain of COVID that we are dealing with? We are yet to see that. So, but the answer is correct. The current patients who are getting the plasma donation is to, the concept is for passive immunity.
So for MERS, the Middle East coronary virus, with that they have permanent immunity, it seems. Yeah, but
Right. So we would actually know. Interestingly, one of my anecdotal experience, one of the first patient, I have to give you this example. He was 87-year-old, relatively unhealthy, maybe had history, high blood pressure ki history thi, had mild dementia. He started having cold-like symptoms. So we did the chest X-ray, and back then, I'm talking about end of February, I had no suspicion that this person would have COVID. So I ordered flu swabs because we were in the flu season in New York State. So the lab somehow mislabeled this as COVID, and that test came back positive. So I had to call my infection control department. I said, what do I do with this result? Because I had no suspicion. X-ray is not showing me the typical COVID, जो presentation है, bilateral hilar infiltrates or glass ground appearance. So they asked me to do antibody. Antibody came back extremely high IgG. And day 7, the person was doing well. And I was very happy that, I treated him for regular pneumonia, COVID-19 swab positive aya, antibody high aya. So most likely, he particularly was, exposed to COVID. And what I saw 7 days ago was okay. Between the 9th and 12th day, he became hypoxic and he passed away. And I was at the bedside when he became hypoxic, and I had so limited chance to save him. So that brings the question, does everyone who develops that immune response, did he die, did he pass away of microemboli? A microembolism ka kafi abhi we are talking about it, right? I mean, people are not dying of pneumonia only. We thought it was pneumonia. Abhi chote chote clots ho rahi hai puri sharir mein, and we know that it is killing the organs, and patients are developing microemboli and they're developing respiratory failure. Could it be that is what we are talking about? So we really have to retrospectively look and see जो immune response जिस तरीके से, and this particular patient had more than 1200 IgG. So he should have done very well in my clinical experience, because that means that was his recuperating time. And he just went. Whether this was a hydroxychloroquine, which was prescribed, even though he did not have, or was it microemboli, we don't know. So we expect, hope is this is a permanent response of the body, and that would be excellent for someone who develops IgG and develops immunity lifelong for COVID-19. That's something which is a dream, and that's dream come true, I would say.
This microemboli you're talking about is not like a full-blown DIC, is it?
So no, it is. You're absolute. That's a very good question. It is very similar to that. D dimers are high, ferritin is high, ESR is high, and it's behaving like DIC, because that's when patient starts crashing right after. So if you're looking at the current Mass General Harvard guidelines, they are recommending to start low molecular weight heparin early on in the case. If there is a contraindication for low molecular weight heparin, jiska kidney disease or so they're asking to start on NOVAX, such as rivaroxaban or newer anticoagulants. So that is showing that it's preventing the clots, other than the disease process itself is what's happening.
But you don't see an overt coagulopathy with this.
A very small subset of patients who don't do well. Not everyone. Very small set who they have very high mortality. You're seeing extremely hypercoagulable kind of response.
It was more of a thrombosis than a coagulopathy. Huh?
Thrombosis, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you considered EACA, epsilon aminocaproic acid?
I have not seen anything being discussed on that space so far. No. That's actually a very interesting question. I have not seen any, because Abhi, jo, even including my institution, which is an academic institution, if I, we'll have to go through that approval process. We'll say I've not seen any major, in interest or involvement in that.
That's for the plasminogen pathway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So,
Dr. Rekha ji, do you is it true that more than 70 years the ventilators were not advised in the US? Is it a true thing? And I would also request you to give some tips to the senior citizens over here in India.
Sure. The first thing aspect is the ventilation, right? Obviously, you saw the devastation in Italy where काफी seniors की मौत हुई और ventilators की इतनी जरूरत पड़ी. You saw all the information that more than one person was being given ventilation, one single ventilator, and they were ventilating multiple patients. Thankfully, in United States, we didn't see the need of ventilation as projected. Also, we also saw that early ventilation did not do too well with these patients. So, stepwise approach था. सबसे पहले nasal cannula से regular oxygen cannula से गए. Then we went to ventimask. Then we went to non-breather. Then we went to high flow oxygen. Then we went to all the proning processes, proning for 30 minutes, lateral pronings. And then if someone still was saturating low, उनका oxygen कम था, उनको ventilation दिया गया. So you're right. We did not rush to ventilate the patients. Early on, we saw that it was not a very prudent thing to do. So we went to stepwise pattern, and majority of them did well in this in between the steps, and we were able to discharge them. So second thing for seniors, what we understand today, right? मैं हमेशा बोलती हूँ जो मेरी real seniors है जो घर पे they understood mitigation. They understood social distancing because they were listening to the advice. They stayed home, including my father-in-law, who's 89-year-old. I had to request him to move. He lives with us. He moved with my family member क्योंकि ज़्यादा risk मेरे से होती है क्योंकि every day for me it's day zero. I'm going to the patients. I'm at the bedside. I bring back the infection to home. Literally, I have a process. I don't touch anything when I come home. The doors are open to me. I go, shower, wash my clothes separately. I stay in my room. I have a very selected space. This is for last 2 months. I wear mask with my in front of my. That is a sacrifice we have to do, and we did it. It is tough. I cannot be with my family, but my seniors, most of them who are homebound, they did well because they stayed home. So my advice mera ye hai, till we have a clean understanding of the virus, clean understanding of the treatment, one thing a senior can do is make sure stay home. But India mein ye hai, I always say it's a multi-generational household. I mean, we have all age group. We have grandparents to the parents to the kids. So I would say for the younger people who don't have symptoms, especially in their 20s, please make sure you wash your hands. Especially when you go out, please make sure you wear the mask. Please make sure अगर immediate family के साथ interact नहीं कर रहे हैं, make sure you're 6 feet away from the person you're meeting. And when you come home, make sure you take shower, wash your hands. और washing hands का हमेशा मुझे question आती है, is hand sanitizer good enough? It is good enough, but if you wash your hands for 20 seconds at least. Lather this with soap 20 seconds and then wash your hands. And if you can stay, around 6 feet away from the seniors, trust me, you're doing them a favor, right? My seniors ka ye guide, and then घर पे obviously we have to have the preventative, anything which is prevention that the ancient India preaches, right? We are talking about garlic, we are talking about turmeric, we are talking about vitamin C, provided it is allowed by their primary care, it's good. But stay home, make sure that you're hydrating, making sure that you're washing hands is what I can advise to the seniors right now, until we know, we have a vaccination out there so we can protect them from vaccination.
I have one question. Sorry to jump in, Pooja. Doctor, can you just tell a little bit about this whole corona itself? Where did it found? How the name came? And can you just enlighten on this whole corona, please?
Is it for me or Dr. Jacobs?
Dr.
No,
Jacob, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Actually, it's I didn't look up the whole history, but it's been around for quick. The genus of viruses has been around for a long time. But really came to the fore with SARS in 2003. I was actually flying through Singapore when all that was happening, to find all the people in masks there. So that was the first SARS-CoV-1. Then came along the MERS from Saudi Arabia. But biologists quite all over the world were aware that there's a harbor of COVID viruses probably mutating in southern China. And they put it quite distinctly to the, it's published actually, that the culture of wild animal markets, it's published in that, using the same terminology. So that's pretty much the history. It's been around for a long time. It's mutating. It's all a question of antigenic shifts along the way in time. So now we have got SARS-CoV-2. We can have 3, 4, 5, 6 coming along in the future. They call it H1N1, right? That is one of the strains. Hemagglutinin, which attaches to the receptor, and then there's the neuraminidase enzyme that pokes the viral replicated virus through. That is basically how it works. I think the germ load on a patient has got a lot to do with it also. If you're working and actually working, hospital staff are at tremendous risk from a huge inoculum. Yeah. In a way, I think India was lucky because the footprints through India from China was small compared to the USA and Northern Italy.
डॉक्टर जेकब ने अभी कहा कि कोरोना वायरस पहले से ही मौजूद है और ये कोरोना वायरस का फैमिली, कोरोना एक फैमिली है जिसमें से वायरसेस के नंबर्स दिए गए हैं और कोरोना वायरस कोविड-2 यानी ये एक कोरोना फैमिली का ही है और ये वायरस काफी खतरनाक वाला वायरस है। इसके बाद तीसरा, चौथा, पांचवा भी आ सकता है और हिंदी में बताना काफी डिफिकल्ट है, बट स्टिल कोरोना एक पहले से ही खोज किया हुआ वायरस है जिसमें इस फैमिली के अंदर एक कोरोना वायरस जो कोविड-19 है जो एक उसी फैमिली से निकलता है और ये काफी खतरनाक है और फेफड़ों के ऊपर इनका काफी ज्यादा हार्मफुल है, यानी हानिकारक फेफड़ों के साथ ज्यादा करता है।
Doctor, can you just tell a simple question to Dr. Jacob? How this name Corona has come? Who did put this name? I mean, this may look very simple, but how did this name Corona has come? Who did put this name?
If you look at medieval kings and their crowns, they have those things sticking out of their, like this. That's all it is. That's all it is. In fact, a lot of medical taxonomy, the way they name birds and things and animals is really strange. Very, very strange. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty, all said and done, it's been quite heavy what has been happening. And if you look at the cluster of all the big cities in the world, population density.
डॉक्टर रेखा जी, मेरा एक प्रश्न है, ये जो मॉर्फोलॉजी, जो वायरस की जो मॉर्फोलॉजी है, क्या ये इंडिया में जो वायरस मिला है उसकी मॉर्फोलॉजी डिफरेंट है, यूएस में जो वायरस है उसकी मॉर्फोलॉजी डिफरेंट, जो इनके ऊपर होते हैं, जो वायरस का जो स्ट्रक्चर है, इसके ऊपर जो स्पाइक्स है, इसके नंबर्स के हिसाब से इसका इन्फेक्शन काफी ज्यादा है, या ऐसा कुछ?
So, we know it's basic is an RNA virus. Like Dr. Jacob said, it's been there for a long time. There are common cold viruses, which we know is coronavirus and rhinovirus. Um, the devastation which COVID-19 has caused in Italy and US versus what you have seen in India or even Middle East brings up a theory hypothesis that we need to study the strain which is not out there yet, but the scientists and the epidemiologists will have to comment on that. Is that there is a mutation of the virus already from China? If we have to believe what China is reporting, the number of casualties and the number of diagnosed patients, once it came out of China and we saw it in westernized countries, and whether it was a more transparent reporting compared to China, we don't know. But we know in India, it's not, at least we are not seeing the numbers. If you're following the international graph, Indian graph has not taken off in any way close to what happened in Italy and in America for sure. So there is a lot of hypotheses that has it been mutated? Was it a worst mutated strain which is affecting the westernized country? Is it a strain which is much more less pathological in India? We need to see when we study. The epidemiologists and scientists will come back and say. But this is definitely, Dr. Jacobs, correct me if I'm wrong, which is definitely documented that warmer temperature will make it difficult for the virus to multiply so quickly the way it multiplies in colder temperature, because it comes in that family of coronavirus.
Dr. Jacob, any comments on what she said? Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
Taiwan, for example, according to the BBC News, about the long tensions between Taiwan and mainland China. Chiang Kai-shek was pushed out of mainland China, and a lot of tensions between them. And Taiwan sensed that there's something wrong going on in Beijing, and it took action long before everybody else. And the next. So they didn't entirely believe what China was putting out, and that's why they decided to go. Yeah, it's pretty clear on BBC about this. Yeah, Taiwan is
Unmute.
everything behind the bamboo curtain. That's what they call it, the bamboo curtain. Yes.
मेरा प्रश्न रेखा जी को यही था कि ये वायरस जो है, इसका आकार जो है काफी डिफरेंट है, यानी इंडिया में जो वायरस को स्टडी किया है इसका आकार डिफरेंट था, और जो यूएस में या इटली से कंपेयर किया गया तो इसका आकार काफी डिफरेंट था। और रेखा जी का यही था कि जो जहाँ पे गर्मी ज्यादा है वहां पे इसकी जो बढ़ती संख्या, जो वायरस अपने आप में मल्टीप्लाई करती है, वो काफी कम रहती है अगर गर्मी के देश में है, और ये जब ठंडी में रहता है यही वायरस काफी मल्टीप्लाई ज्यादा करता है। इसीलिए शायद इंडिया में ये शायद है, यानी ये एक हाइपोथेसिस है, ये कोई प्रूवन थियरी नहीं है। तो इनका यही कहना है कि गर्मी के देशों में ये काफी कम मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं और ठंडी के देशों में ज्यादा मल्टीप्लाई करता है। बाकी रेखा जी, आप ये भी बता सकते हैं हमें कि डिसइंफेक्टेंट इंजेक्ट करने का ये डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने हमें बताया था कि यूएस में डिसइंफेक्टेंट्स भी इंजेक्ट कर सकते हैं, क्या ऐसा कुछ किया गया था या ये ऐसे ही उन्होंने सरकास्टिकली कमेंट किया था?
या आई मीन अगर आप वो क्लिप देखें ना, वो ऑब्वियसली प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प सजेस्ट नहीं कर रहा है। आई मीन it is his dialogue between, listen, at the end of the day, neither he's a clinical person nor he's a scientist. That is his discussion with the person who was presenting. So agar hum objectively वो देखे, he's definitely not recommending to inject the disinfectant, correct? So वो जो presentation किया गया, जो alcohol based sanitizer से, वो actually when you clean your hands, it kills the virus very quickly externally. So I don't think there was any suggestion that आप disinfectant को inject करो, and it was actually a misinterpretation. Everyone has their own right to interpret who talks out, But if I have to look at it as a doctor when he was talking, I don't think he was recommending to do. He was just asking a question as someone who's a non-clinical person, and I think it was just blown out of proportion for unnecessary reason.
वेल डॉक्टर रेखा जी, आप एक जैन हैं और जैन के नाते आप कोई सजेशन देना चाहेंगे, या if you can talk about how did Jainism bring you into this, or what is your theory behind this particular corona thing?
So, I have to bring back, the core of my belief is Jainism. Particularly individually, me, I might not be ritualistic, but I practice the faith of a religion very closely. And when a decision came, जैसे मैं आपको बता रही थी, मेरी एक और स्पेशलिटी इज पैलिएटिव मेडिसिन. जब अमेरिका का फ्लड शुरू हो चुका था, यहाँ से सबसे बड़ा जर्नल है न्यू इंग्लैंड जर्नल ऑफ मेडिसिन, उसमें एक आर्टिकल छपा गया. सो उसमें ये लिखा गया दैट अगर हम लोगों को वेंटिलेटर देने की डिसीजन लेना पड़े, अगर इतने सारे पेशेंट्स आएंगे इमरजेंसी रूम और हॉस्पिटल में, if we have to make a decision on who gets the ventilator, then उसमें क्राइटेरियाज थी. और बेस्ड ऑन माय क्वालिफिकेशन मुझे पूछा गया, इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ कॉन्फिडेंशियल कमिटी, आपकी स्पेशलिटी पैलिएटिव है, आई वुड लाइक यू टू बी चेयरमैन ऑफ दैट कमिटी. Even though my belief and my training is palliative, I had to turn down, because if I'm leaving a person, even if he's a senior, if I'm leaving a person without a life-sustaining treatment, that's against the belief of Jainism, that I'm letting someone without a trial. I mean, unless and until a person believes that mujhe kuch nahi karna hai, let me go on my own, that is his choice. But if I'm sitting in that committee as the chairman to decide who leaves and who does not leave, I had to step down from that because it was against the core of what I believe. So this is what I would say, that where I would put my, and I say that to my family too, that, Jainism is not about killing someone. Even if I'm talking to someone, if I'm hurting, I tell this to my son when he was young, that is equal to hurting someone. So you choose your words, practice it day to day. And he's a fourth year medical student, and I say that to him too. I said, you need to be honest to yourself, even when no one is watching. That's where the ethics comes. You do the right thing. And for that ethics committee, unfortunately, I know it was a very big decision. They were not happy, but I had to step down because I would not ethically support what was asked for me to do.
रेखा जी से मेरा यही प्रश्न था कि जैन होने के नाते इनका क्या सजेशन था, या इनका बेसिकली क्या ये मानते हैं जब ये पेशेंट को ट्रीट करते हैं.
वेरी वेल. मेरा एक प्रश्न है डॉक्टर रेखा जी से, क्या आप एक फर्स्ट एक इंडियन है, उसके बाद एक जैन है, और क्या दूसरे डॉक्टरों के आप जब देखते हैं, न्यूयॉर्क में तो मल्टीपल है, कोई चाइनीज डॉक्टर है, कोई कहाँ के अलग अलग ओरिजिन से है, क्या उसमें कोई फर्क देखते हैं क्योंकि आप एक इंडियन है और एक जैन है, जब ये लड़ाई कोरोना के अगेंस्ट में लड़ी गई?
नहीं, I would say no. I think सबका approach to patients was the same. हम सब patients को do the best thing we can. For sure. I mean, जब हम hospital enter होते थे, मुझे ये मालूम है, when I was driving to the hospital for last 6 weeks, only thing I could hear is the ambulance siren. When I entered the hospital, only thing I could hear, or maybe my conscious was code. कोड मतलब जिसका हार्ट और ब्रीदिंग खत्म हो गया. So every 15 minutes. उस समय I did not see the change in race, creed, religion. Everyone सब जुड़े हुए थे. I don't think none of us saw any difference, and we all wanted the best for the patients. क्योंकि again we were not prepared. जितना भी पढ़ाई की हम we were not prepared, but I saw everyone came together in dealing with the patients. I didn't see, we were one religion and one, I didn't see any difference.
Good to know. I just wanted to know, another thing is that we keep seeing on the TV the New York governor Cuomo, जो इतने डिटेल स्टैटिस्टिक्स हर दिन हम जब शाम को टीवी ऑन करते तो हमारा सुबह का न्यूयॉर्क का दिखता है और उन्होंने हर स्टैटिस्टिक्स हर चीज को वो क्वेश्चन लेते हैं, हर चीज के पूछे बोलते हैं जो सही सही बोलते हैं. क्या ये इंडिया में प्रेजेंटेशन और न्यूयॉर्क में प्रेजेंटेशन में डिफरेंस है?
डिफरेंस जरूर होगी क्योंकि मुझे आई कैन क्रिटिक न्यूयॉर्क का नंबर्स. आई डोंट थिंक इवन दैट नंबर्स आर एक्यूरेट क्योंकि हम लोग स्केल नहीं कर पाए. वी वर नॉट टेस्टिंग एवरीवन. मार्च सेकेंड वीक तक हम लोगों के पास टेस्टिंग कैपेबिलिटी नहीं था. जिस तरह वो एक आइडेंटिफाई करते थे एंड हम कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग नहीं कर पाए. सो जो नंबर प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं आई स्टिल थिंक इट्स अ टिप ऑफ एन आइसबर्ग. So I can imagine what is being collected and what is being reported in India. But I think India did the lockdown very early on, which is, I think, one of the best thing you could have done in this understanding of the coronavirus right now. And contact tracing with, they did well, but I would not believe that we are testing everyone with the symptoms. Because, I don't believe the numbers completely because I truly believe the numbers even in New York was not accurate. क्योंकि मुझे अगर when I had symptoms when in mid March, when I called COVID-19 hotline, उनको 4 दिन लगा मुझे वापस फोन करने में and मुझे टेस्ट किया गया. Even though I had symptoms, it came back negative. Then I had to retest again. So even I think obviously United States has better equipped. The numbers are closer to the truth. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but Indian capability of testing the dense population is something would be a challenging number. So I would not take it as a complete number. Right? There must be significant discrepancy in what we are testing and what we are reporting.
I don't want to comment anything on how things going in India. Do you think once we open the lockdown, will be a right decision? And how do you see Jain and Jahan? Our Prime Minister told which one to first protect, because आप जान बचाने जाएंगे तो your livelihood will go off. If you अब जान इतना बचाएंगे कि भूखे से इंडिया में the poverty everything काफी वो लोग मर जाएंगे, और इस बीच में कैसा बैलेंस करना चाहिए? I know it's very difficult thing to tell you, but I would like to get your views on that.
So, healthy nation is what we have to go for. If healthy nation, you probably can fix a lot of other things parallelly. But you're right. Because just New York was unable to lock down completely because financial implication has been huge and it would have been even worse. So staged opening hona chahiye. I mean, if they just open like a gate, you would see a spread of the virus because we are still saving, even with the hot temperature in India, we are still seeing positive cases. So it has to be a staged opening with a very thought out process of, जो essential workers की essential needs है वो they have to stage with that first and then go with the stage 2, stage 3. Ultimately, they will go with complete release of the restrictions. But it cannot be open the gate today, lockdown आज खत्म हुआ and we are open back to normal. Is not, in my opinion, is not one of the smartest decision to do for sure.
एक क्वेश्चन संतोष भंडारी का है जो यूएस से है. Lot of people criticizes Trump for being slow. Can you share your unbiased opinion with us on this?
I don't, I would disagree because, the criticism we can always look back and say, so first of all, you have to trace what happened, correct? November, December mein jo cases ho rahe the in China was not reported until the doctor who was an ophthalmologist, who was a whistleblower, he came out in the social media and he said he's seeing so many deaths. Usko dabaya gaya and then ultimately, unfortunately, he passed away. The second thing, when it spread beyond, even the World Health Organization took its time. I mean, honestly, it took its time to call this as a pandemic. They could have called it on maybe earlier on. I don't know what measures they were using to say it. So he, what was advised to President Trump, and he said there was a ban of China travel in February, correct? He did announce it. He did get a lot of criticism for that. But what I would say, from the CDC, from the local Department of Health, especially in the states of New York and California, it's definitely individual governors who were responsible. If you compare New York and California, similar population, dense population, immigrant population, California did much better. So, did we at the state level falter? I would rather actually hold the state level accountable because we should have known what to expect. I don't think the call of from President Trump was way off the track. I mean, I think this was based on what evidence was coming to the CDC. So, but they could have prepared for the, contact tracing. They could have prepared for social isolation. That I would say should have come at least 2 weeks before they called in. But, I will also hold the state level governance equally accountable compared to the feds.
So, similar question I will ask you, if you can give your unbiased opinion on the Prime Minister Modi. I'm sure we're not recording, but you can give. Was he very strict? Was his decision to come in the balconies and do the bells and light the lamps? I would like to get your unbiased views. Were it were too early to celebrate, or is it too early to unlock this lockdown because we're seeing the increased cases, but will be unlocked from tomorrow? What do you think? I know it's very difficult from Prime Minister also, but did he came very hard on India, strictly locked down without giving any gap, 3 hours gap, without planning and giving any information to the state governments? Can you just give your views on that?
So lockdown was necessary. I mean, for a population like India, lockdown was absolutely necessary, and I actually, if they've done a good job, but giving the time and how the preparedness for it, again, maybe they had very little time to prepare. So announcing lockdown, I support that for sure. I think it's very early to celebrate. I disagree in that, coming to the terrace and celebrating, because we know this is not going to go anywhere. Until we have vaccination, COVID is not going anywhere. I think it's a very early celebration. And you're right, we cannot be in lockdown forever. So it has to be a very methodical way. Listen to, instead of maybe administrative people making the decision, they might want to have clinical people, epidemiologists, scientists on board, recommending to the governments, because each area in India is different. The terrain is different, population is different. So they need to really watch and also develop a technology. Like even CDC is looking into technology like blockchain, where they really capture, because healthcare and moving forward, technology will play an extremely important role in mitigating these outbursts in future. So I think early celebration is something I would disagree. Lockdown call was absolutely needed. I know it was. I don't think, in my clinical opinion, nothing was strict. In fact, I would wish New York had called lockdown, early on. But I think celebration is something is extremely premature at this time.
Good. Dr. Jacob, do you have any questions to Dr. Rekha from New York? Whatever you're free to ask, because I know you can go on in this corona, having known Dr. Jacob. Can you just put one question to her?
Just the prone position. It's so labor intensive.
Yeah.
So labor intensive.
Yeah.
And a lot of complications from in the sensitive. Lines come out and endotracheal tubes come out and cardiac arrest in the prone position by the time you get them over. Quite a mess, isn't it?
Wonderful question, Dr. Jacobs, because Friday I sat with my whole team discussing it. So we have two different populations for proning. One who are on ventilators, correct? And so we have fancier ventilators here. I'm sure India has it too. We call it as ECMO. So that is always on prone ventilation. It's almost 20 hours of ventilation on the prone position. But these are sedated patients. They're on propofol. They don't feel uncomfortable. The question comes with people who are not on ventilator, right? So they don't tolerate 20 hours of proning for sure. So what we have done is interdisciplinary approach. We are going to ask patients, as tolerated, prone yourself for 30 minutes. Or as are tolerated. If you cannot do 30 minutes proning, do the lateral proning either on the right side or the left side. And we have included respiratory therapists and chest therapists to do chest therapy at the bedside, and we are given incentive spirometry, which is pretty much like our pranayam, what I would say equivalent, do at the bedside. And also we educate the patients, listen, in between these the 30 minutes, if you start getting difficulty in breathing, if you start having cough, go and prone yourself, or they could have a recliner in the bedside. So it's not one cookie cutter approach, except on the ventilators. If they're on ECMO, we do 20 hours of proning. But the rest, it's as tolerated approach, so that patients have to tolerate proning. It's very, very, very uncomfortable. And like I said, labor intensive. You need to have multiple disciplines. We need to have physical therapists. We need to have respiratory therapists. We need to have occupational therapists working with these particular patients. And I've actually opened up post-COVID units here in New York, where patients survived the acute stay and now they're significantly declined functionally, but they need rehab. So I had to draw protocols on them. So how do we bring them back to their functional capabilities? How do we give them these modalities of treatment so that they can get back and go back in their lives? So it is absolutely labor intensive, and we are seeing good 2 to 4 weeks of recovery time once they survive the COVID.
Excellent. I think Pooja, taking efforts to translate in Hindi is a lot of effort. I understand, but we are getting a lot of insights. I'm sure a lot of viewers are in English. A lot of viewers are doctors too. Dr. Jacob, I would like to request you to go with another 1 or 2 questions, because this is becoming very, very interesting for everybody. If you don't mind.
I can't think of anything right now. So the DIC is more on the thrombotic side than on the hemorrhagic side. Huh?
Correct, on the thrombotic side.
Then I'm wrong. Then the EC has got no place there. Yeah. So now it's all. Can you call it a migrating thrombophlebitis?
Migrating thrombophlebitis. I've not seen much literature on that. So this is what we are seeing: microemboli and attacking 3 major organs. Obviously, significant myocarditis we are seeing with the microemboli, and renal failure because of microemboli, and strokes. Migrated thrombophlebitis, I've not seen much literature. Again, I could be wrong with that, but the major concern is they're going into acute renal failure, and then dialysis, and that subset of population is extremely poor prognosis. Or acute significant heart failure, myocarditis, heart failure, and EKG looks like as if it is an acute myocardial infarction. And then microemboli and strokes, lacunar infarcts. So this is what we are seeing.
Neil Bhai, I would like to ask you a question to Dr. Rekha ji, putting your lenses on this whole this one, either in Hindi or in English, whatever you are comfortable.
So basically, one question is there on the Q&A as well कि ये कोरोना वायरस है वो लिविंग बीइंग है या नॉन लिविंग बीइंग?
क्या इसमें जीव है कि नहीं है? Doctor, the question is.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
See,
Both of you can take it.
Are you aware of the mad cow disease? Mad cow. That is a non-living particle. It's a prion. It is right, and that prion, you cannot destroy it. So if you did a patient with mad cow disease in England, you had to bury everything, all the instruments and clothes and everything, deep underground someplace. Really, no matter how long you boil it, you can't kill it. That's a prion. This one is supposed to be a living thing. Now, what do you say, Dr. Rekha?
I agree with him. So it is a living thing, and absolutely, because we see that with a disinfectant, we are able to remove the virus from the surfaces. So it is definitely a living organism for sure.
Thank you so much.
Anything else, Pooja?
That's it. There are no more questions.
Viruses, we can go hunting then, can't you? What, Neil? If you can kill viruses and bacteria with antibiotics, you could go hunting, couldn't you? Hunting is a big sport in America. So, yeah. So you could.
So I really, I think Pooja, I'm sure many questions. I will be requesting Dr. Rekha ji, and I'm telling Vidya, if she permits, please add her on the discussion room so that a lot of people can ask the questions offline. I know this is a very technical 2 people on the board. We try to bring the best experience to the panel to get it. I know it's short time. We can't take all the questions. We can't bring the best out of it, but we tried a best attempt to bring Rekha ji and she has shared her view, the values which she may not practice, but when it comes to the highest body of deciding, she decided what is right. That reason was behind the values. She also came out with a very nice thing saying you need to be honest when nobody is watching you. I mean, we are all honest. We write the exams very correctly if somebody is watching. But if there is no examiner there, do you still don't copy and do you still be honest to yourself? I think that's two great lessons, Dr. Rekha ji. Thank you so much for taking time Sunday morning, which is the only day for you to relax after fighting 6 weeks, 6 days, 24/7 this disease. I truly appreciate you coming on this platform and give the light on this.
55% of the American populace is obese, right? Morbidly obese. They are difficult to manage in an ICU, by and large. Obese patients. And I've worked with a lot of obese people doing gastric bypasses, that and the other. Complications in an obese patient getting on a ventilator, inflation pressure is so high. My God, turning them prone is unimaginable to me.
It is. It is.
You're doing all that, huh?
We're seeing high mortality in two subsets: African Americans, Hispanic population, obese, and have underlying comorbidities. It is extremely. Sometimes we need 3-4 people to just prone them because it's almost like they're at 200, 300 pounds. We have bariatric beds to accommodate that weight, and it is extremely time. I mean, honestly, as a doctor, I salute the CNAs and the nurses who are at bedside much more longer than we as physicians are, because truly their teamwork, without them, I think we cannot be where we are. So that's the teamwork that we see, and it's extremely difficult, and they're the ones who are doing this ground job. So it is difficult. I totally agree with you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Rekha ji. Please take care of yourself. Be safe. Probably you are the need of the hour the most. And first, we all from India will pray for you. You be safe and take care.